Hi everyone, today is April 27th, 2019, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is GreenRanger, and this week in the Duel World, a lot has been going on. In terms of PvE, the new Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Duelist Chronicles event is going on. It recaps the dramatic season of Season 2, so you can kind of go through that and see what that season is all about. There's 2 new cards from that event. There's an emergency Nerf. 6 Sams are finally getting a hit. We will talk about that and see if that's enough to slow them down. New box, miniBOX coming out too. Lords of Shining coming out early next week. We're going to go over all the cards from that box and some of the new archetypes as well. A bunch of other changes as well to the extra deck. The new 6 cards to the extra deck has been released, but you have to kind of earn it. And also, we're going to talk about the latest esports as well as the survey question of the week about, are you motivated to play Ranked Duels and Duel Links? It's kind of stemming on my own frustrations over Ranked Duels, so we're going to go over all of that in this episode. In terms of myself, in the last week, I hit King of Games with the special duels. Special duels, of course, this time around, first player gets to draw a card. I never really kept track of my own numbers to see how well I did first versus second, but, you know, I assume it can only help. I don't know about the people, when I went second, how many times I won, but it was pretty easy since the win streak requirements are pretty light, and there's no platinum or legend rank, so it's just gold to King of Games, so essentially it's like hitting plat 1, and I did it with the Psychic Synchro deck. I don't think I really made any changes to the deck, so it worked out fine. In terms of regular ranked duels, as unenjoyable as that is right now, I hit Legend 1. I may have hit Legend 1 last time, I don't remember, but I have been playing some of the ranked duels just to get the dice for the Duelist Chronicles event, but yeah, I'm not motivated to play ranked duels with the way it is right now. I did get the extra deck plus, so that was a lot of PvE grinding for that, and I do have 6 slots in my extra deck now, so that does open up a lot of possibilities for my deck building down the line. Esports this week, Duel Links Meta held Meta Weekly number 69. It's kind of a continuation of the 6 Samurai domination, except you see a top 4, only one of the decks was 6 Samurai, so you can see in the tournament format for Duel Links Meta, the good players know how to tech out against 6 Samurais to beat them, so a number of different decks could win, depending if you have the cards, of course. The first place, Raul Torres, a Kaiba Bling Kawaki Meiru deck, and the way Kawaki Meirus are, you know, winning in this tournament nowadays is they're completely teched out against 6 Samurais. So when I say teched out against 6 Samurais, you've got 3 of the Karakuri Ninja Model 339 Sazank, 3 Sphere Kuribo, and 3 Cosmic Cyclones. The rest of the cards are the Kawaki Meirus. You got Rooklord, Sandman, Earn Knight, Maximus, Ice, and Wall. 3 Diamond Cores, 2 Iron Cores. Of course, this works out well because Kaiba Bling they have a glossy Diamond Core, so they kind of grinded out the Revolution beginning box to get that glossy Diamond Core. And of course, Sazank is making a huge splash since it can get rid of and by sending it to the graveyard instead of destroying it. We're going to see a number of new cards in the new box that actually do the same thing, so it's possible those might see play, but Sazank is the card right now that's available. Second place, Choo Choo MTFKR, Destiny Draw Burn Neos. This deck is pretty... I'm not sure if this is the deck going forward for the Neos decks, but it is put in this package. Basically, this deck is 3 Lava Golems, 1 Cypher Soldier, 2 Sazank, 3 Sphere Kuribo, 1 Mithra, 1 Bacon Saver, 1 Elemental Hero Neos, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Miracle Contact, 1 Econ, 3 Neos Fusion, and 1 Treacherous Trap Hole. So, you've got the minimum of the Neos cards, and, you know, Neos Fusion is pretty good. It lets you fuse Elemental Hero Neos with any of the any effect monster to basically work with Brave Neos. So any level 4 or lower, which are basically all your other cards, except for Lava Golem, of course. And Lava Golem works pretty well against 6 Sams. I guess all this stuff is precipitated by 6 Sams being around so much. So that's what that deck is. Third place Orbit, 6 Sams. This is pretty much the new version of it. In the deck itself, it's a bit of the regular version of 6 Sams. You've got your Anishi, Kizaru, and Secret of the legendary Secret of 6 Samurai. This does run 2 Treacherous Trap Hole, which clashes with Xian's Dojo. This kind of deck isn't going to work anymore. The Treacherous Trap Holes are going to have to leave because of a nerf. The sideboard's interesting. You've got 2 Shinzeng Hu and 2 Special Hurricanes. These are to counter the decks that we are seeing to counter them. So these cards counter, all out of back row. Shinzeng Hu is pretty good at that. Special Hurricane's good at destroying Lava Golems. So that's what those cards are for. And finally, third place, Eduardo, 1992, with Parasite Infestation deck, Amazoness deck. No Lava Golems, interesting. No Lava Golems. Got 2 Sazanks again to get rid of Shen. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same Amazoness deck you've seen, except no Lava Golems, which is pretty interesting. And the tier list update, no real changes to the tier list update. I assume something's going to happen to 6 Samurais once the nerfs are out, for sure. But Stall has been removed from high potential because of them not being that great in tournaments. They can get countered by Shinzeng Hu and things like that. So they are pretty good in the ladder, and you see plenty of them on the ladder, but they are pegged down in Duel Links Meta just because they aren't, the best deck for the tournament scene. Speaking of the nerf, that's what we're going to talk about. A bit of a surprise this happened, but there's a lot to discuss about this. But what happened was Konami is going to hit 6 Samurais with a small nerf, putting a card on the semi-limited list on May 16th. So it's 3 weeks from now or so, more than 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. But what's happening is Shen's Dojo is going to be put on the semi-limited list, which means you can only play 2 of any of those semi-limited cards. Shen's Dojo, of course, is the continuous spell. Every time you normal summon or special summon a 6 Samurai monster, you put a token, a Bushido counter to be exact, and then you special summon a monster from the deck with the number of tokens on it. And you only need 1 counter to get Fuma out, and typically that's how you get your Shin out. So it's pretty easy to use. Putting it to 2 does a little bit to the consistency of the deck, of course. Often you can get Shin on the first turn because you have 3. So this hits on it a little, but if you are a 6 Samurai player, you know that this isn't a big deal. What it is putting it on the semi-limited list. The semi-limited list is very crowded compared to the limited list. And a bunch of cards like Econ and Treacherous Trap Hole specifically can't be played because you need Shen's Dojo to play 6 Samurais. And I've seen decks get away without the 6 Samurai United, the card that draws cards, but obviously that card will be played in 3s with this nerf, and Shen's Dojo will have to be played on 2. You have no Econs, no Treacherous Trap Hole. That's not the end of the world for the players because Dual Wield is a pretty good card. Likely, I think the deck I play has 2 Dual Wield, 1 Treacherous Trap Hole. And, those decks we're going to have to run 3 maybe. Sphere Creator, of course, is a great option to fill out any deck. It's a good counter to 6 Samurais because they can't negate the ability. It's a hand protection instead of a spell or trap protection. So that's definitely a card to consider. Of course, as a 6 Samurai player, you can tech out against the Cancer Stall decks. So Shinzeng Hu, of course, is a great card for that. I saw Special Hurricane in a tournament list. That could wipe your opponent's board depending on what they play, because A lot of monsters are special summoned nowadays, so that's another card to consider. And, any general good cards you have, they can take the place for now of that missing card. Of course, Six Samurais themselves have a number of other tools. You could switch over to the asceticism build. There are the other cards. There are plenty of other monsters they have. You could get another Anishi, and you could get another Kizaru, and maybe another legendary secret of Six Samurai. So there are a bunch of other cards they can use. I don't know if this is enough to peg them down from a tier 0 to a tier 1. It's possible they are heading that direction with the number of new cards coming in, and of course the number of counters like Sazank being put into the meta. So maybe as a Six Samurai player, you can run a Sazank of your own, so you could counter their Shin. I don't know. But this is definitely not the end of the world, but there are a lot of discussions online I'm seeing of Konami putting in this nerf pretty fast. And even though it's a card that's been around a while, it is a nerf to the last box that had the Six Samurais. It makes them less good. And is Konami driving away the whales? We don't know. If it's possible the complaints were just too much, or they know that the win rate of Six Samurais was just too much from the Kaido Cup results. A lot of decisions are being made, of course. This isn't just let's nerf Six Samurais because everyone's complaining about it, but there is that balance. Are you driving away people who are spending money in this game because you nerf Six Samurai so fast? We will see where this leads in the meta, of course, and of course in player sentiment in the power level of the deck compared to everything else. Experiences in the ranked duels nowadays aren't too enjoyable with the type of decks around, and that kind of motivated my question of the week. Are you motivated to play ranked duels and Duel Links right now? And this was one of the better discussions I had, because the voting was fairly even. This is the first time I've seen such an even distribution of votes, and there were a lot of different responses from everyone on Twitter, so I don't think everyone who saw the tweet and responded to it or voted. This is definitely the type of discussion we have to have in the game. Anyone who's interested in game development or how games work, these are the type of things you have to think about. So the choices I gave are: yes, I am motivated to play ranked duels because I want to hit King of Games. No, the grind is pointless. Or no, the meta is painful. Of course, with Twitter polls, you would like more options with the way things are voted, but that's the way it is. 28% people said, yes, I want to play ranked duels because I want to hit King of Games. Exactly a third, 33% say no, the grind is pointless, and 39% the leader says no, the meta is painful. I think I would fall into no, the meta is painful right now, so let's go through some of the replies I got. Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk, Doug Dimmadule says, nah, I need more motivation to grind. I still hate the win streak requirement to rank up in a game where one bad hand or matchup can cost you big time. Yeah. King of Games or anything in this game requires a big win streak, except for the special duels. That was pretty easy, but it is, just hitting King of Games is not really a big deal, frankly, and for some people it is, of course, but if you've done it before, it's not really like another accomplishment. I'm getting my 7th King of Games or whatever, so Doug talked about not liking the win streak requirement. You could have a huge win percentage and just be not lucky, and you won't ever hit King of Games, so it's a bit of a weird thing. Tom V. Delzen, a Duel Links Meta Championship winner, says, I wish it was more of a grind, to be honest. Now you play 35 duels, and then you have to wait 30 days. So this type of reply obviously comes from a top player, the top 1% player. And a lot of people from Duel Links Meta, they do get the decks. They do hit King of Games within the first 2 days, so then they're just stuck waiting. And there has to be more for this type of high-level player, because they don't really... I don't know if they can even get their ranked tickets, because you finish those games and that's it. What are you going to do for the rest of the month? It's tough. They're just be playing the tournaments, I guess, but that doesn't really contribute to ranked duels. I don't know. It's a lot of just sitting around waiting or playing weird decks, I guess. So there has to be a niche for the casual player and the top level player too. And Tom V. Delzin is obviously a top level player. This is a mindset that those types of players have. Duel Links Lounge says, "Where's the option where I hate this meta but I still overcame it?" This is a pretty cool response here. And it definitely takes a motivated person to get through this meta. I think obviously people don't get tilted by these decks, these stall decks that are around. I really do though, but Duel Links Lounge overcame it, hit King of Games. Good luck. Good looks. Chris Broderick says, "I do like ranked, but at the moment the meta decks are so annoying. It's really not a friendly game towards people who don't want to invest money into the game." Yep, I'm here as well. The meta is very annoying, and it's not a friendly game towards people who don't want to invest money. I agree with that. That's pretty much the case for any game, really. In Duel Links especially, you pay money to play the deck you want. If you're free to play or limited money, you're pretty much stuck playing the best decks that are economically practical. So you don't really get to pick what you play. Of course, if you pick what you play, it doesn't mean you'll always win. So there's always that tough move there. 1OOG says, "Nope, stuck in the despair gold rank, waiting for season reset to re-earn win rewards." Yeah, not everyone is at the same level in Duel Links, so this guy's stuck in gold. I know back then, when I never hit King of Games or even Legend, those ranks were just impossible to get out of sometimes. And I know there was a certain point where people were playing, whatever, and you could just beat them. But possible gold, you might run into a lot of Ancient Gears players, and it won't be easy to get out of if you don't have the same collections as those players who paid a little bit to get that Ancient Gear deck. X3 Chronic says, "Meta is painfully pay to win with the exception of 6SAM, which, yeah, I hate it, but it's the only deck not fully put behind the paywall for cards like Ancient Gears and Neos." Yeah, the structured deck EXs, they let you buy one copy for 1,000 gems, but then you have to pay it twice to get the other. They give you one copy of each core card, basically, so you need to buy it twice with real money. 6SAMs, I actually did buy almost entirely with gems. I think I did use some of my Google Play credit, but that's because I get it for free. But, yeah, I agree. 6SAMs were the practical option. They were the top deck. They were out of a miniBOX, so it seems like they were the deck to play for people who don't spend a lot of money in the game. Mage of Ancients says, "Only thing that's realistically keeping me from playing Duel Links at the moment is work. But yeah, I'm still willing to still play Ranked Duels to see how many Yubel Terror Turbo players I can beat." This guy has the right mindset. He or she is not disturbed by the meta. They're distracted by work, as many of us are. I probably would play more Duel Links even if I hated it, if I didn't have work, but that is the case. We are all strapped on time nowadays, even to do this podcast, so I was typing a bunch of stuff, and that kind of made me a little late for this podcast, but here I am. And finally, Tied to a Corpse says, "The latter is all cancer stall, Amazon 6SAMs, Ancient Gears, and Neos. I'm more focused on finishing up my Fire Fist deck at this point. Need one more Gyaku and a Gorilla. Completely free to play, so wish me luck." So this person's motivation is tied to building a specific deck, and when you're a free-to-play player, you have to go, fish around the old decks to kind of play a certain deck you want. So I remember Fire Formation Gyaku was a bit of a core card back in the day, so I have all those cards, but going around to the other decks to buy the Fire Fist cards are definitely a struggle. So they're motivated to play their deck, and that is a reason to play the game. So we went through a bunch of responses this week, all varying emotions and also feelings about Duel Links ranked meta. I personally hope it improves. I don't know. 6SAMs will have to something will have to counter the decks to force a change, I think, and it'll take a lot more than that 6SAMs nerf to do so. So I'm hoping for things to be more enjoyable And of course, we are looking for more incentives to play the game. A very good discussion we had this week. Now I'm going to talk about the new miniBOX that's coming out on Tuesday, April 30th. This is the Lords of Shining miniBOX. And there's a whole new archetype here in the Dark Lords. We're talking about all those cards. I've personally never seen the cards, given my low experience in the TCG. This miniBOX also revisits Steel Swarms, Noble Knights, and X Sabers. So we'll talk about those archetypes. There are a bunch of new cards too, a bunch of fairy cards, cards that support different archetypes. So we're going to go through all the URs and SRs right now. First card is Elemental Hero Shining. Oh yeah, and just to preface, as a miniBOX, there are 100 packs per box, and the URs and SRs are pretty much the same because there are one of each. So take that into consideration when you're resetting the box. So if you got a bunch of really good cards in the first 10 packs, you should probably reset it so you could get your doubles or triples of them. Anyhow, Elemental Hero the Shining is a fusion monster. 8 stars, 2600, 2100. The fusion of any Elemental Hero monster and any light monster. Must be fusion summoned, cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 300 attack for each of your banished Elemental Hero monsters. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 of your banished Elemental Hero monsters, add those targets to your hand. So, this has synergy with Miracle Fusion and Fusion Gate because those cards fuse and they banish the monsters. So this becomes a 3200 on its base with the 2 monsters. Obviously, you have to use a light Elemental Hero monster, not just any light monster for that to happen. It'll just be a 29 if you just use any light monster. It gets over the 3000 Ancient Gear Wyvern, it gets over Blue Eyes, so it's pretty good. Despite this has no synergy with the Elemental Hero Neos deck. So the Neos deck is completely different, where they try to get the Brave Neos out. And those cards don't really use Miracle Fusion or Monster Gate, so a Fusion Gate. So this is a beat stick in the dedicated deck. I don't expect it to see any play because it doesn't fit with the Neos strategy. And the Neos strategy, you fuse from the deck. So this is kind of the old way of doing it. I don't see this being too impressive. The next card is the White Stone of Ancients. It's a 1-star Dragon Tuner, 600, 500. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon 1 Blue Eyes monster from your deck. You can banish this card from the graveyard, then target 1 Blue Eyes monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can use this effect once per turn. So there was the card that was played, White Stone of Legend, and this is a better version of it because it works twice. You can also use the card Cards of Consonance. You could discard this card in the graveyard, draw 2. Now this is in the graveyard, you special summon Blue Eyes from the deck. Another card that works really well with this card is Limit Reverse, which will bring this card back from the graveyard, and then you just keep playing your Blue Eyes. So this is good support for the Blue Eyes deck. Obviously, that isn't a top tier deck anymore, but you still see it every so often, and it does get some games just from its sheer power. So it's not a card to ignore, and it's a good card for Blue Eyes players to get. The next card is the Deep Grave trap card. Target 1 monster in either player's graveyard during your next standby phase. Special summon it from the graveyard. This is Monster Reborn. We're never going to get Monster Reborn, but this is the trap version of it. It's a delayed version, and it's not bad. It works during your opponent's turn better than yours because you won't get it till the next turn, obviously, but pretty good way to steal your opponent's monster, especially if it's cards like if you get a Shen from the graveyard. That would be pretty cool. Then you can start negating their stuff. I don't know if it's a card that will see universal play, frankly, but it is a card to consider for many decks just because it is Monster Reborn. And of course, it is situational. It doesn't protect you or anything, but it is stealing your opponent's monsters isn't a bad thing by any means. Now on to the SRs. Celestial Wolflord Blue Sirius, 6-star Synchro, 2400, 1500, no tuning requirements. When this card is on the field, and destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses 2400 attack. Very interesting. It's a level 6, which fits very well with Psychic Synchros, because those typically have some 2-3 cards moving around, so then this card can come out right away. You probably want to destroy this card, so you could weaken your opponent. You attack with it, then you destroy it, and then you weaken your opponent, and then you do some kind of one-turn kill. But I think that's a bit too inconsistent in Duel Links, given our deck sizes. It is a Beast Warrior, so it can fit with the Fire Fists. So this is a card to consider. Obviously, any Synchro monster is a choice. This one has no tuning requirements, so it's an option in any Synchro deck that can fit 6 stars, of course. In the 6-star field for the Psychic deck, I have Psychic Nightmare and also the Stardust Charge Warrior. So those are 2 cards that would compete with this slot. Dark Lord Ixchel. 10 stars, 2500, 2900. You can discard this card and 1 Dark Lord card, draw 2. During either player's turn, you can pay 1000 life points and target 1 Dark Lord spell or trap in your graveyard, apply the effect, and shuffle that target into the deck. You can use this effect once per turn. So all of the Dark Lord cards have that second ability where you can pay 1000, target a spell, apply an effect, and send it back to the deck. This one mostly is you could discard it, and another Dark Lord and draw 2. So actually this is a pretty good card. When you're tossing the 2 cards, you typically want to destroy, send the card Dark Lord Contract, which is a spell, and also another monster. The monster is probably Dark Lord Superbia, which is the next card I'm going to talk about. But it is situational in that you need those cards in your hand. So that's what you have to do. Dark Lord Superbia, level 8, 2900, 2400. When this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target 1 fairy monster in your graveyard except for Superbia, special summon it. So yeah, with Ixchel, you toss those cards, and then you use Dark Lord Contract. You bring this back, and this card brings back another monster. The problem is this card's 2900, 2400, so it's going to be on the weaker side in defense mode. A lot of cards can get over 2400, including the Samurai monster. So obviously, when you're playing Dark Lords, you probably want to play Beatdown because they're all really high level monsters. Next card up is Dark Lord Desire, level 10, 3000, 2800. Cannot be special summoned. You can tribute summon this card by tributing 1 fairy monster. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls. This card loses exactly 1000 attack, and if it does, send that target to the graveyard. So unlike the other Dark Lords, which focus on special summoning themselves from the graveyard, this one does not fit that. It has anti-synergy. It works with any fairy monster, so maybe there are some tokens that get fairy tokens out, and you could just tribute 1 for a 3000, 2800, which is pretty good. And this is a control card. It sends monsters to the graveyard, so it doesn't destroy, it sends, and this is very relevant for 6 Samurais because they have protection against destroy effects, like Szank, which is being played a lot. Szank sends things to the graveyard, so this does that. You're going to lose your attack, but this is more of a control card. It's not about it having 3000 attack. It's more of that being an option and fuel for it sending stuff to the graveyard. So this is a pretty cool card. It doesn't have to be a Dark Lord card, but it is. That's where we are with this card. Next card is Sacred Arch Air Knight Parshath, level 9, 2800, 2300. If you activate a counter trap, or if you negate the activation of a spell or trap card, or a monster effect, you can banish 2 other fairy monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard, special summon this from the graveyard or hand. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, add 1 Parshath card or counter trap from your deck to your hand. There's a bunch of support for this card in this set, and this obviously works well with the counter trap fairies we saw from the Taya events. Those cards saw some play, actually. And this has piercing, as all Parshath cards does, and it lets you refill, get card advantage when you pierce. This deck's not viable at the moment, but this is not a bad card at all. And we have to see more counter traps, obviously, for the deck to see play. But there is a card called Wiretap, which is okay in this set. So it's possible this is a new archetype. I don't see it being the best archetype, but I see it being possible a lower tier deck. Next up is a revisited archetype, Steel Swarm Moth, level 6, 2400 attack, 0 defense. When this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Steel Swarm, you can pay 1,000 life points to target up to 2 cards your opponent controls. Return those cards to the hand. So, this is similar to a bunch of synchro cards. Mistworm returns 3 cards, I believe. Junk Destroyer destroys up to 2 cards. So this is a similar monster. And return those targets to the hand. This can get by Shen, so it's pretty good. The problem with Steel Swarms is they all have 0 defense, and there are a lot of cards like Econ or Paleozoic Canadian being played, so this will be immediately trampled. The next turn, having 0 defense, but if they don't run those cards, it's another story, but they are way too common nowadays. Evil Swarm Mandragora, level 4, 1550, 1450 plant. If your opponent controls more monsters than you, you can special summon this card from your hand. So, a very good card, actually. Very useful for many types of ramp. Tribute summon ramps, this could get into a level 1. One tribute summon right away. Synchro summoning. This makes any of your tuners fast, because you could get this out, get your tuner out, and then you could synchro summon right away. XZ summoning. This plays like the Psychic Synchro cards because they can special summon themselves depending on your monsters, but it is level 4. So it works well with Junk Warrior. You could get level 9 out pretty fast. I like this card a lot. XX Saber Fault Troll. 6 stars, 2400, 1800. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by controlling 2 or more face-up X Saber monsters. Cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn, you can target one level 4 or lower X Saber monster in your graveyard to special summon that target. I don't like this card at all. It's very situational because it has to be the 3rd monster on your board to even see play. And that is a bit too much. I know the card Full Helm Knight gets a monster back and then you play this as your 3rd. I guess that's the only way this card sees play, but it all hinges on all those cards being viable, and I don't really see it. Here's an interesting card, Right Go Lightsworn Hunter, 2-star beast with a flip effect, 200 attack, 100 defense. A flip effect, apply these effects simultaneously. You can destroy 1 card on the field and send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So, this is the first time I've seen the word simultaneous on flip effect and 2 effects, so the chaining is a bit weird on this. But it destroys 1 card on the field, kind of like Snowman Eater, and it doesn't target, though. That's very interesting. It doesn't target, so gets by that. Of course, destroy is something that doesn't work against Shen because of Fuma, so not the best in that regard, but it is a possible control card. Of course, you are losing 3 cards in your deck, so it's not really a control card. So it's more of a Lightsworn card. And finally, the last SR in this box is Wiretap. We saw this with a Trudge PvE event. Counter trap. When a trap is activated, negate the activation. If you do, shuffle that card into the deck. So this could work for the counter trap fairies. Obviously, this is very much like 7 Tools of the Bandit, except you don't pay 1,000 life points. It might be better than 7 Tools of the Bandit, frankly, but it does get around things like Paleozoic Canadian because the trap gets negated and the monster doesn't come out. I think this could see play, but we never saw 7 Tools of the Bandit see play, so I don't know if it's definitive if this card will see play. Now we are done with all the URs and SRs of this box, and now I'm going to talk about the archetypes. Noble Knights. So this set doesn't really give new equip cards for Noble Knights, but gives them the synchro option. And A lot of people like myself were very interested in playing Noble Knights, and unfortunately the synchro option is just one card, and overall when you see the whole package, it isn't too impressive, but you never know what could come out with this the synchro package for Noble Knights. Of course, they were hard countered by the card Paleozoic Canadia being present everywhere, and once you flip it over, obviously, and the equipped cards all get destroyed. So that's what the problem is. That was the problem for Noble Knights. The one synchro monster that is coming to Noble Knights is the Ignoble Knight of High Lord Salin. This is a level 5 synchro. Requires a tuner and any non-tuner Noble Knight monster. 2100 attack, 900 defense. When this card is synchro summoned, you can equip one Noble Arms equip card from your deck to this card. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle and sent it to the graveyard, you can add one Noble Knight or Noble Arms card from your deck to your hand. You can only control one Ignoble Knight of High Lord Salin. So, their tuner is 1 star, and that works with your level 4, so that comes out to 5. It's just 2100 though, so it's not too strong. It could beat one of the 6 samurais, but some of them have abilities when there's multiples on the board, so it might not even be able to beat a smaller one. So, you might have to equip a Gallatin or a Caliburn on this card to get it stronger. Unlike Dristan was probably the best Noble Knight card because it got effect destruction off. This one does not get effect destruction off. It has to destroy something for battle, and it gets resources from the deck. I mean, drawing a Noble Knights card from the deck isn't bad, but it is situational for having to do that. You can get a card that destroys the back row, but then it loses 500 attack and just could be a 1600. So this is a very lackluster card in my opinion. It does let you tutor any. It does let you get any Noble Knight equip card from the deck, so that it is a plus in being flexible. But it is easily countered by back row. And even if you can counter the back row, it will just be a 2600 attacker. So not the most impressive card. Another new Noble Knights card is Noble Knight Brothers, level 4, 1200 attack, 2400 defense. This card can only attack if you control exactly 3 Noble Knight monsters and no other monsters. Well, you can only control 3. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon up to 2 Noble Knight monsters from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except for Noble Knights. Once per turn, you can target 3 Noble Knight and or Noble Arms cards in your graveyard, shuffle 3 into the deck, and draw 1. So this card is pretty cool for a few reasons. It is a very good resource card. You can get 3 cards back from the graveyard and draw 1. Noble Knights typically don't have a way of getting cards back. Once you've exhausted all their monsters or spells, they can't come back. So this lets you come back and get those cards. It gets 3 monsters on the board, kind of like a Ties of the Brethren, and that's something. If you could get like a Dristan out and the other guy, but Dristan can let you get effects off and destroy things on the board. This is also notable. It's a 4-star 2400 defense. That's the highest we've seen, other than Big Shield Gardener, of course. But that could make it playable in some stall decks. I don't know. I mean, stall decks typically do have Fortress Guardian or Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, so it's possible that's a moot point. And Kinetic Soldier is pretty good against Warriors. This probably won't see play in stall decks, but it is an option being a high defender. The next card that's relevant for this archetype is Lady of the Lake. 1-star Aqua Tuner, 200 attack, 1800 defense. Cannot be used as a synchro material except for the synchro summon of a warrior monster. If this card is used as a synchro summon, banish it. When this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 Noble Knight normal monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 level 5 Noble Knight monster you control, reduce its level by 1. If you do, special summon this card from the graveyard. This is the tuner you want to use because it cheats out the monster. It's level 1, and you have to get a normal monster. That's the problem. So there's 2 cards. I think there's a card called Artigius, and then there's the card Gavalchavad. And Gavalchavad is reprinted in this box, but it is considered a normal monster despite having an effect. So those are the 2 cards you use. The problem is it's situational though. It has to have that monster in the graveyard. This card gets banished, and then the second ability where you could reduce the level of the Ignoble Knight and then get this back from the graveyard, it has to be kind of destroyed, because if it's synchro summoned, it's banished. So Lady of the Lake being the only tuner and not being, automatic and being situational makes the overall synchro summon package not great for Noble Knights. Another Noble Knights card, Gwen Huai-Far, Queen of Noble Arms, level 2 spellcaster, 300 attack, 300 defense. You can target 1 Noble Knight monster you control. Equip this card from your hand or graveyard to that target. You can only use this effect once per turn. The equipped monster gains 300 attack. Apply the appropriate effect depending on the attribute of the monster. If the light monster, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy this card instead. Dark. If the equipped monster battles an opponent's monster, and at the start of the damage step, you can destroy the monster, then destroy this card. So this is an equip monster. It works from the hand or graveyard, so you could bring it back continuously, I think. If it's a light monster, it's half of the Noble Arms, but it's better for the dark monsters, which works well with the Ignoble Knight, and that gives it a destroy ability on effect. So it's kind of like the knight with 1800 attack, Burning Knight. I forgot what he called. I'm losing the ability to name cards, but that destroy ability was pretty cool. And the last card's a field spell that's not that good at all. It's Noble Knights of the Round Table. During your end phase, you can activate each of these effects up to once per turn, depending on the total number of Noble Knight cards with different names in your graveyard or control. If you have 3 or more, send 1 Noble Knight card from your deck to the graveyard. If you have 6 or more, special summon 1 Noble Knight monster from your hand. Then you can equip 1 Noble Arms equip spell from your hand to that monster. 9 or more, target 1 Noble Knight monster from your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Or 12, draw 1 card. So this counts the total number of Noble Knight cards you have. Obviously, to make this is more of a TCG card than Duel Links, because in Duel Links you want to run multiple copies of the same card, and with 20 cards in the deck or 30 cards in the deck, it's not going to be too many. You're going to have to run like one of each of everything if you want to maximize this card. Not a very playable card for Duel Links. So overall, the Noble Knights aren't too good, just because they only have one synchro option. The way to get the synchro monster is a bit convoluted with Lady of the Lake. You're going to have to run some normal monsters as well, so I don't really like this package overall for Noble Knights, but obviously giving them the option to play synchros is a step forward, I guess. It's not completely abandoning the archetype. Now we're moving on to the Dark Lords. The Dark Lords saw a bunch of cards in the SR pool, but they have a lot of cards in the R and N pool as well, including Dark Lord Morningstar, 11-star, 3000, 3000. Cannot be special summoned. If this is tribute summoned, you can special summon Dark Lord monsters from your deck, hand or deck, up to the number of effect monsters your opponent controls. While you control another Dark Lord monster, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Once per turn, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of Dark Lord monsters on the field. If you do, gain 500 life points for each Dark Lord card sent to the graveyard by this effect. I think this card is as good as it gets for a 2 tribute summon. You get 2 tributes out, then it cheats out monsters from the deck. If you're playing against 6 Samurais, for example, they'll likely have other effect monsters on the board, and then you can special summon from the deck, and then this card can't be targeted by abilities, which makes it pretty strong. It's a 3000 attacker, which competes with Ancient Gears, gets over 6 Samurais. I think this is the card that could work. Obviously, it doesn't fit with the other Dark Lord cards, but it does seem pretty good for being untargetable. Dark Lord Nastin, level 7, 2600, 2600. You can discard 2 other Dark Lord cards, special summon this from the hand. During either player's turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, target 1 Dark Lord spell in the graveyard, apply the ability, send it back to the deck. So, this is the combo opener. You toss the cards, and then you use Dark Lord Contract, and you bring this back to the board. It's kind of like the Ixen card, kind of. So, this is the only one that would be able to attack, though. So, because you could special summon this from the hand. So, it kind of works that way, where you get to dump 2, special summon, then you use the contract to play something in defense mode. It works with Superbia too, so Superbia can come out. So yeah, this is definitely a card for Dark Lords. The card that makes that's mentioned all the time: Dark Lord Contract, spell card, special summon 1 Dark Lord monster from your graveyard in defense mode. You can only use 1 per turn. So this is the combo card. You dump it from the ability, and then you special summon a monster back in defense position, of course. Less good card is a trap card called Sanctified Dark Lord. Send 1 Dark Lord monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard. Negate the effects of 1 effect monster on the field until the end of the turn. Gain life points equal to the attack of that monster. So this doesn't give you the monster back, but it does. It's like a Forbidden Chalice on a monster. You gain a lot of life points back, so you could use it for resources. If you had to pick one card, I would pick the Dark Lord Contract, but if there was space in the deck to play this card, I would play it as well. Now the end cards, Dark Lord Tezcatlipoca. It's a 2800, 2100, 9 stars. If a Dark Lord monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy this card instead. You can discard this card instead. And then the ability, we pay 1,000 life points to apply the ability of a card in the graveyard. This is kind of like a Sphere Karibo. It's a hand protection. You can discard it to negate something. It's pretty good though because it is 2800, and you'll just run these instead of Sphere Karibo, instead of regular back row type cards. So pretty good card, and it's 2800. It can come back from the graveyard. Pretty good card. Dark Lord Amdusk. I'm not too impressed with this one. It's a level 6, 1800, 2800. And that's all it is. It doesn't have another ability other than you could discard this card and another Dark Lord to add a card to your hand. So that's all it is. It's not too much attack. These cards rely on having a lot of attack, and this one doesn't have it. Dark Lord Ukobak's level 3, 700, 100. When it's normal summons or special summons, send the Dark Lord card from your deck to the graveyard. So this is the only Dark Lord you can normal summon because it is the only one that is less than 5 stars. So it's possible this card doesn't see any use at all, but it's possible that you need these cards for it to not brick every turn, I guess. And Dark Lord Ida Ray, level 5, 2300, 2000. When special summon, it gains the ability for piercing. This is probably the worst card in this archetype. It's kind of useless. And the trap card, Dark Lord Descent. Pay half your life points. Special summon up to 2 Dark Lords from your graveyard in defense position with the same level as a 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. A lot of these cards have more than 8 stars. So it's very... This card's probably never going to work. So I would count on the other 2 spells, Dark Lord Contract and also the trap card, Sanctified Dark Lord. So this is not a very good card at all. So Dark Lords they're scary because they have a lot of attack. They could, flood the board and stuff, but I think they're too inconsistent. We'll have to see if that bodes true or not. Next archetype are the Steel Swarms. They're back. They never really made an impact on the meta. Let's see if these cards make it. Steel Swarm Girostag. Level 7, 2600 attack, 0 defense. You can tribute this card in face-up attack position by tributing one Steel Swarm monster. When this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Steel Swarm, target one card your opponent controls, send that target to the graveyard and gain 1,000 life points. This is pretty strong. You only have to tribute one monster for 2600, which is pretty good. And it has bonus points because it could send Shen to the graveyard without destroying it. This is the second card we're seeing like this. Of course, Steel Swarms have 0 defense, and Paleozoic Canadia makes it, any card gets destroyed afterwards. Infestation, Infection, Continuous Trap. Once per turn, you can send one Ice Swarm monster from your hand or face up from your side of the field into the main deck. Add one Ice Swarm monster from your deck to your hand. So this is the first time we're seeing the term Ice Swarm. And Ice Swarm includes all the Steel Swarms and all the Evil Swarms. The Evil Swarms are pretty much bandless. They all do different things. You see them in different decks. This includes all of them. Considering they're all bandless and they don't have a tribe or whatever, it's useless for those Evil Swarm monsters. This does work for all the Steel Swarms though, so it works. That's why it's included in this discussion. Infestation, Terminus, Trap card. Target one Ice Swarm monster you control and 2 cards your opponent controls. Banish the first target, and if you do, return the second targets to the hand. It's pretty good removal. It's a +1 because you bounce 2 and you lose your own monster, so it's a +1. Obviously, it depends if the Steel Swarms will see any play at all. You do have 2 cards that help a lot. Steel Swarm Cell is one of them. Level 1 Fiend, 0 attack and defense. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be tributed except for the tribute summon of a Steel Swarm monster, and it cannot be used as a synchro material. So this card is basically a ramp for your Steel Swarm. And a lot of the Steel Swarms work. You could get 2 tribute monster by just doing 1. And this comes out for free, so you could just immediately ramp. It makes the downside of the monster having 0 defense a lot better. And Steel Swarm Scout's about the same. 1-star Fiend, 200 attack, 0 defense. At the start of your main phase 1, if you control no spell or traps, special summon this from the graveyard. You can't special summon other monsters. You do this effect. You contribute summon this for a Steel Swarm. So this is less good than the Cell. It's the same thing though, so if you have to double down, you would use this card. Yeah, so this is Steel Swarms. They do have a lot of powerful abilities, and the Steel Swarm Cell is the card that would make it. I think if they are to become a lower tier deck, Steel Swarm Cell is the card. 0 defense is pretty bad though, so I don't think they're going to be too impactful. And finally, the X Sabers are here as well. I'm going to talk about these cards pretty quickly because I don't really see them going anywhere. XX Saber Ragigura, 1-star, 200, 1000. When this card is normal summoned or special summoned, add 1 X Saber monster from your graveyard to your hand. So, a refill monster, typically a card you would want to use for a synchro summon right away because it just has 200 attack on the board. XX Saber Emmer's Blade, level 3, 1300, 800. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon level 4 or lower X Saber monster from your deck. This one's a little better. You could cheat out the full Helm Knight and then they could ramp into another monster. The problem with this type of ability is it is negated by all the Ancient Gear monsters and as well as Armadides, which is seen in almost every synchro deck. X Saber or Bellum, level 7 synchro, 2200 attack, 1300 defense. No tuning requirement. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent while they have 4 or more cards in the hand, place 1 random card from their hand on the top of their deck. So this is it's a level 7 synchro, 2200 attack, situational, inflict battle damage opponent. It's not very useful. And finally, Gotham's Second Call spell card. If you control an X Saber synchro monster, you can target 2 X Saber monsters in your graveyard. Special summon both targets, ignoring their summoning conditions, but change their attack to 0. Destroy them during the end phase. You can only use this effect once per turn. You cannot conduct your battle phase when you activate this card. This lets you synchro summon another monster, basically. You use the same materials that you used for your current monster, and you get a second one you can't attack. I'm not too impressed with the X-Saber monsters at all. So that's the whole box. There are some fairy cards with the Parshath, Sanctum of Parshath, Rebirth of Parshath, and they all work with the counter fairies. That could be decent as well, but overall, I'm not too impressed with this box. I do want to play the Noble Knights. I was excited at first, but then the pull package doesn't seem too good. I think I might skip on this box, but I might try to get some of the Rs, so I wouldn't really have to grind. The URs and SRs don't seem crazy to me. I might just want some of the Noble Knight cards, like the R cards, just to play around with. But otherwise, I'm not too excited about this box, frankly, and I am a bit low on gems as well, so I'm not going to go crazy for this box, but I might buy a few packs just to see what some of the Rs I can get. Done talking about the miniBOX. Let's move on to the PvE event this week, Yu-Gi-Oh! Chronicles GX Season 2, The Society of Light. And if you've never watched the whole series like I did, I only watched some bits and pieces. This gives you a bit of a rundown of the whole Season 2. Some people were a bit miffed. I saw they were using a lot of the dub speech, a lot of the stuff that isn't said in Japanese, but it is what it is. Sometimes you might find that entertaining, you might find it corny, but there's a lot of dramatic scenes. You see a lot of the cutscenes, people getting electrocuted and things. Cyrus notably gets destroyed, and Jaden's crying for a doctor. Jaden also loses sight of his own cards. He becomes blind. He can't see his own cards, so a lot of the weird stuff going on in Duel Links in GX that happens. But there are 2 new cards here, and these cards actually came out in April 2019 in the TCG, so they're very new cards. Elemental Hero Grand Merge, level 6 fusion of 2 hero normal monsters. Must be fusion summon, gains the attack and defense equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its fusion summon times 300. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you contribute this card. Special summon 1 elemental hero monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, but it cannot attack monsters with an equal or lower level than it. What happens is there's only 5 cards you can pick from, actually. So it's Burstinatrix, Avian, Sparkman, Clayman, and Neos. If you use 2 Neos, it will have an attack of 4,200. If you use 2 of the level 3s, 1,800. So anywhere between 1,800 and 4,200. Could be a fit for the new Neos deck because that card allows you to bring back your Neos. Those new cards allow you to bring back Neos a few times. And it does replace itself with a monster. But it is anti-synergy with the Brave Neos because the Brave Neos can't be used to destroy weaker monsters with lower levels than those monsters. So, it's a card you could consider if you have the extra deck slot, or it could be its own card in the Elemental Hero collection. The other new card we are getting, that's also a bit of a new card, is Double Hero Attack, Quick Play Spell. If you control a fusion monster that lists Elemental Hero Neos as the material, target 1 hero fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only activate 1 Double Hero Attack per turn. This fits into the new Neos deck as well. It lets you resurrect Brave Neos right away. And also the other fusion cards you could choose. And yeah, it's a quick play. So you could kind of do some kind of 1-turn kill thing if one of them is already dead, or you could gain advantage on the board by destroying 2 monsters. So it's an immediate fit for the Neos deck. Notable thing that happened this week is Extra Deck Plus. So we are getting our 6th slot for the Extra Deck. You do have to complete this lifetime mission of completing 100 synchro summons, and I can say it was a bit of a grind. It took 2 full days for me to do it, and to do it the right way, you have to be in the mindset that you're grinding out the dice for the Duelist Chronicles, and you also have to do 1 duel each, so you don't put the multiplier on. You play a deck that gets a lot of synchros out, so I did 6 Samurais. I just auto-dueled a lot using Sartorius because I have to level him up as well. So I was trying to do multiple things at once. And it took me about 2 full days to get this 100 synchro summons. I did do it though, and the payoff is worth it though. Just to increase your deck slot, your extra deck slot is definitely worth it. So it's something to do on a rainy day. There are delays to the item capacity increase though. We were going to get increases to the item capacity, and also our inventory was going to get capped and lost. That's been pushed to May 16th, which happens to be the same day of the nerfs. So that is the other topic. We didn't get our upcoming news for the month there. It's a bit slow this month, so we are going to get Duel Quest soon. Duel Quest, they are giving us Goblin Attack Force, which is a classic card, 2300 attack, 0 defense, switches to defense mode. So where you're getting these beat sticks that aren't going to see play, but it's fun card to have in the end. So that is this week's episode. Thank you for bearing with me. Losing my voice here, and we had a very, very good discussion about the state of the meta. Hopefully things could become more enjoyable, but we don't really know what to expect for the future, but we can only hope that the ranked meta is more enjoyable. Listen to this podcast, search the Duel Assessment, subscribe, like, give me comments. Love to hear from you. Check out the podcast and more at the website, the duelassessment.wordpress.com, email duelassessment@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter, duel_assessment, or me at GreenRanger CCG. Thanks everyone, see you later.